The security guard swore he'd seen everything: tantrums, tears, even food fights, but nothing compared to the billionaire's twin daughters. They were 12 years old, identical in face but double the trouble, and no one lasted more than 3 days as their nanny, tutor, or caretaker. That was, until the day Maria walked in, her uniform a faded navy blue janitor's jumpsuit and her eyes heavy with exhaustion. Maria wasn't supposed to be there for the interview. She was supposed to be cleaning the hallway floors of the Astor estate, one of the largest mansions in the city. But fate has a strange way of moving through open doors, and when she overheard the head housekeeper shouting, "We're desperate. Those girls made the last tutor quit," in tears, something in her heart stirred. She didn't plan to speak. But she did. "I could try," she said quietly, her mop still dripping water on the marble floor. The room fell silent. Every eye turned toward her. "You, the housekeeper, Mrs. Dalton," blinked. "You're the janitor." "Yes," Maria said, lifting her chin slightly. "But I've raised a child on my own. I know what kids need. Sometimes, it's not rules or money. It's someone who actually listens." Mrs. Dalton laughed under her breath, shaking her head. "Mr. Astor would never allow that. But as luck, or destiny, would have it, William Astor, the reclusive tech millionaire himself, happened to overhear. A widower since his wife's passing 3 years ago, he had buried himself in work, leaving his daughters, Amelia and Isla, adrift in grief and rebellion. He was desperate, even if his pride wouldn't admit it. "Let her try," he said simply. And just like that, Maria, the single mother janitor, was given an impossible task: handle the unhandleable. The twins, Amelia and Isla, were beautiful, brilliant, and broken. They'd lost their mother suddenly to a car accident, and their father had retreated into silence. Their pain turned to anger, their sorrow into defiance. They tormented every adult who dared come close. When Maria entered their grand playroom that first day, she found chaos: paint on the walls, shattered glass on the floor, and the twins sitting cross-legged on a table, smirking. "Another babysitter. How long will you last?" "An hour." Isla sneered. 10 minutes, Amelia corrected, grinning. Maria didn't scold. She didn't flinch. She just smiled, quietly setting down her cleaning supplies and picking up a broken picture frame. Inside was a photo of the girls with their mother. "You miss her, don't you?" she said softly. The twins froze. Their smiles vanished. No one had ever said it out loud. "Who told you that?" Amelia whispered. Maria looked up at them, her voice gentle. "I can see it. I lost someone too. My son's father left before he was born. Some days, I felt so angry, I wanted to break things too." The room grew quiet. For the first time, the girls didn't throw a tantrum or mock. They just stared at her, uncertain, as if she'd spoken a secret language only they understood. The next few days were rough. The twins tested her patience every way they could. They hid her mop. They poured juice on the carpet. They even locked her out of the playroom once. But Maria never raised her voice. When they hid her mop, she laughed and told them a story about how her son used to hide her shoes so she couldn't go to work. When they poured juice, she handed them towels and said, "Let's clean it together. It's okay to make mistakes." And when they locked her out, she sat by the door and told them about her son's dream of becoming an engineer. Little by little, the fortress around the girls' hearts began to crack. One morning, when Maria arrived, she found something she never expected: Amelia sitting on the steps, waiting. "Do you really clean every day?" she asked curiously. "I do," Maria smiled. "Every day since I moved here. I have to take care of my boy." "Where is he?" "At school. He's 10. His name's Daniel. He's my whole world." Amelia looked down. "Our dad doesn't talk about mom anymore." Maria placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Maybe he doesn't know how. Grown-ups grieve too, but we hide it because we think we're supposed to be strong." That afternoon, Amelia told Isla that maybe Maria wasn't so bad after all. By the end of the first week, the twins had stopped screaming at her. By the end of the second, they were following her around the house, curious about her life. When Maria took her lunch break in the garden, the girls joined her. She shared her homemade sandwiches and told them about her neighborhood, the small apartment, the community garden she volunteered at, the nights she read stories to Daniel until he fell asleep. The twins listened, eyes wide. They'd never known what an ordinary life was like. "Your house sounds happy," Isla said one day. It is, Maria said with a smile. Because we choose to be grateful, even when life isn't easy. But things weren't always easy inside the mansion. Mr. Astor's company was facing a major scandal, and he began spending nights at the office. When the girls overheard a headline about their father being called heartless, it triggered old wounds. He doesn't care about us, Isla shouted. He only cares about his stupid company. They stormed to their rooms and refused to eat. Maria found them later, curled up together, crying silently. She knelt beside them. You love him, don't you? Amelia nodded tearfully. But he never shows it. It's like he forgot we exist. Maria took a deep breath. She'd seen this before, grief turning into walls. Sometimes people don't know how to show love the way we want. But that doesn't mean they don't care. Maybe he needs help remembering how. The girls looked at her, confused. How do we help him? By reminding him what love looks like. The next morning, Maria brought them into the kitchen. They baked cookies, drew pictures, and made a small photo album titled, Our Family. On the first page, they pasted a picture of their mother. On the second, one of their father holding them as babies. On the last page, a drawing of their family now, with Maria and her son included. When Mr. Astor came home late that night, exhausted and defeated, he found the album on his desk. He opened it, and for the first time in years, he cried. He found his daughters asleep on the couch, arms around each other, the faint smell of cookies still in the air. And standing quietly by the door was Maria. She misses you, Maria whispered softly. Both of them do. But they still love you, Mr. Astor. They just need you to come home once in a while. He looked at her, this woman in a janitor's uniform, her hands calloused, her eyes full of compassion, and something inside him shifted. From that night on, things began to change. William Astor started coming home for dinner. He joined the girls in the garden on weekends. Slowly, laughter returned to the mansion. One day, Amelia and Isla asked if Maria's son could visit. Daniel came shyly, holding his favorite toy car. Within minutes, the three children were playing together like old friends. For the first time, Maria saw the twins smile without pain behind it. The bond grew deeper. The twins began helping her with chores, baking, even volunteering at a local shelter she supported. Maria taught them that wealth wasn't about money, it was about kindness, empathy, and connection. When the girls' school held a charity fair, Amelia suggested raising funds for children who couldn't afford school supplies. Isla made posters herself. Their father donated quietly, but this time, he didn't hide behind money. He helped set up booths, laughing with his daughters all day. Maria watched from the side, tears in her eyes. But life, as always, tested them again. Maria's son fell ill, nothing life-threatening, but the hospital bills were heavy. She tried to hide it, working extra shifts, cleaning late into the night. But the twins noticed the dark circles under her eyes. They told their father. Mr. Astor found her cleaning the grand hall at midnight. Why didn't you tell me? He asked gently. I didn't want charity, Maria said quietly. I just wanted to do my job. He smiled sadly. This isn't charity. You've given my daughters something no amount of money could buy, their hearts back. Let me help. He paid Daniel's bills in full. But more than that, he offered Maria something unexpected, a position as family care director, overseeing the girls' well-being and mentoring other household staff. I don't have the degree for that, she said, shocked. You have something better, he replied. Heart. Years later, the mansion was filled with warmth again. Amelia and Isla grew into kind, confident young women. Daniel became like a brother to them. Maria's small apartment was no longer her home. Her family had expanded beyond walls and blood. On the twins' 18th birthday, they stood before a crowd, giving a speech at their charity foundation's launch. Once upon a time, Isla said, smiling, no one could handle us. Amelia finished, until a single mom janitor did the impossible, she loved us back to life. Maria stood at the back of the room, tears streaming down her face. The applause thundered, but all she felt was quiet gratitude. Because sometimes, the greatest miracles don't come from wealth, power, or status. They come from kindness that refuses to give up, no matter how broken things seem. And that's how one single mom, armed with nothing but love and a mop, healed a family the world had given up on. Moral: you don't need riches to change a life. You just need heart, and the courage to care when no one else will.